Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys for another episode of the Arsenal News Show, joining you every morning at 8 a.m. UK time. Hope you're doing good. Hope you're doing well and having a fantastic week so far. You've made it to Friday. It's finally over. The week without football for so long is done. But it does mean, of course, that there is football to enjoy this weekend. Arsenal in particular playing this weekend on Sunday away at Brentford. We'll talk a bit about that in a bit. But of course, there's football in the Premier League tonight as well. So there's an FPL reminder for you. Make sure you get your teams sorted and done early, because there are games that are not indeed going ahead. So make sure that you are all prepared on that front as well. If you want to join our FPL League, by the way, there is a link in the link tree down in the description as well. So do join the party. Good morning to everybody joining us in the chat box. Matt G, good morning to you, to Paul, to Answer, to Damien. Good morning to Olu and Anz and Gooner David. Good morning to Kaiser and Christopher and Martin. Good morning to PJ and Anthony. Good morning, Anthony. I'm expecting an excited and buzzed up pre-day honeymoon version of Tom today. Of course, yes, I do leave tomorrow. There will be a show tomorrow, so do tune in tomorrow morning. I mean, I say there'll be a show tomorrow. There's going to be a show for you every single day, my hope is, whilst I'm away. Every morning at 8, there will still be a show for you. I just won't be live doing it. They're all been pre-recorded. I've got some fantastic guests for you lined up across to keep you entertained. We've got Clive, we've got Arsblog, we've got FK, Harry Simiu, we've got Mike, Andy, and Drew. We've got Sophie and Super Kev, we've got Amanda and Albert, Dan Potts. We've got loads of guests that are coming on the channel to keep you entertained as well across the honeymoon series, as we're calling it. So do make sure you're subscribed. Do have those notifications turned on. It might not pop up on your feed like it does usually, like half an hour before the show. So do tune in at 8 o'clock, because it will pop up. The tweets are scheduled to go out at 7:30 on Twitter every day. So you'll be able to get the links there. It should still pop up on your feed, though, at 8 o'clock if you want to tune in. So do make sure you do that. Without further ado, let's jump into today's show. Arsenal versus Brentford preview is up. However, there are some slight inaccuracies now, of course, with the news that we're going to discuss today regarding injuries. So do bear that in mind. Arsenal against Brighton in the WSL kicks off this evening. You'll be able to watch the women's game on the Arsenal website if you want to. So make sure you go and give that a watch. And also 45,000 tickets have been sold for the first home North London derby of the season. If you haven't yet got your ticket, go over and make sure you're down at the Emirates for the first North London derby. This is an incredible spectacle after the massive success of the summer for England women's football. Seeing this many people attending an Arsenal against Spurs game in the WSL is so brilliant. So if you haven't got a ticket, if you want to go to the game, go to the Arsenal website, get yourself some tickets, because it's definitely going to be worth it, and quite an amazing atmosphere that day as well. Turner is in the US men's national team, but no Auston Trusty. However, I did an interview yesterday with Brian Dick, who's the kind of Birmingham Live reporter for Birmingham City. And in that interview, which you can go and read on the football.london website, it is very, very optimistic about Trusty. And there's a real hope that he could be a little bit more than just a lone player that we make a profit from. And that actually his performances in the Championship this season have been of a level that could certainly give reason to give hope that we might potentially see him involved in an Arsenal senior squad in the future. So definitely worth giving that a read. But Trusty in. Trusty is not in the squad. Turner, though, is, of course, and probably expected to be the starting goalkeeper. That said, but we have seen a number of times from the US men's national team as they like to play goalkeepers that are playing every week, which Turner, of course, isn't at the moment. Saliba has made the France squad, which gives him the assurance that he would get enough minutes to get involved in the World Cup for Qatar 2022, which should be a massive boost in terms of the player's contract and for Arsenal in particular. Saliba wanted that assurance that he would be able to get into that French team playing for Arsenal, and those minutes for Arsenal would be given to him. That has, of course, happened. So a new contract, hopefully, can be agreed. I know that there's been reports suggesting that Saliba had already agreed that new deal. To my understanding, it's still not been signed, but the Arsenal are confident of a new deal being signed by Saliba, hopefully very, very soon. Gareth Southgate named his England squad yesterday as well, which caused quite a stir amongst the Arsenal fan base for a number of reasons, particularly the exclusion of Ben White, which we'll talk about shortly. However, Bukayo Saka and Ramsdale did both make it into the team. Ramsdale, without Pickford there, is hoping to try and fight the likes of Nick Pope and Dean Henderson for that number one spot, whilst Bukayo Saka looks the most natural starting right winger in the England team. Jarrod Bowen looks his most likely competition. Bukayo Saka could yet start for England's World Cup squad in the summer on that right-hand side. Now, White was not included, to many people's dismay. However, there are supposedly some rumours that he is facing an injury. Either a hip or knee problem is keeping him out, it's said to be at the moment. However, we are expected to get more information on this a little bit later on today. Arsenal do have cover if White is indeed to be out. Takahiro Tomiyasu, of course, has played against FC Zurich and would be expected to come into the team to play against Brentford. So it's not a massive concern in terms of personnel because we have very solid cover. It is a concern in the sense that we don't know how long he's going to be out for if he is indeed injured. However, even more of a concern is now that Zinchenko is said to be out. According to UAF, they have reported that the Arsenal man has picked up a calf muscle injury during training, and this will take 2 weeks to recover. He was swiftly brought back into the sides against Manchester United and came off the bench against FC Zurich. Unsure if this is related to that problem in particular. However, we are expected to find out more about both players revealed today by Mikel Arteta, whose press conference takes place today. So we are expected to get answers on these guys from Mikel Arteta, and you'll be able to watch that press conference back over on the Arsenal Way channel. So you'll be able to go and do that. But it's not the best of news. We don't need this right now. Arsenal, of course, have got a situation whereby they play Brentford this Sunday. You would think with Zinchenko and White out, it does mean we go back to revert back to our starting fullback options from last season, which is fine. Tierney and Tomiyasu are very, very good fullbacks. And Saliba, of course, Gabriel would partner them in the middle. We haven't yet seen Saliba play with Tomiyasu. And, of course, seeing a back four made up with Saliba instead of White is something that I think most people expected to be the starting back four for this season, not a back four that saw White play at right back and Saliba in at right centre back and Zinchenko on the left. I think a lot of people expected the back four to be this season Takahiro Tomiyasu, Saliba, Gabriel and Tierney. So it's still a very good back four, and that's a credit to the depth that we've been able to add and maintain in this squad. But another injury to Zinchenko so quickly after the last one is not a good sign. Hopefully, it's not a reoccurring problem that we see going into the season. And with White as well, White has been able to escape injury for most of his time at Arsenal, only faced a few issues at the end of last season. So hopefully that's not too big of a problem either. As I say, Mikel Arteta will hopefully give us a lot more clarity on this during his press conference and reveal all about the extent of those injuries. And that completes all of today's stories. Just before we go into part two and your questions, a massive thank you to William Gustafsson for joining up as a new member on the channel. Thank you for helping to support the channel. Always really appreciate it. I'm sure that the TGT family is already welcoming you into the family. Let's move on to part two and your questions with this short break. Okay, then let's go into the chat box and ask or get some questions asked so I can try and answer them as best as feasibly possible. Let's go to Patrick, who says, why are key players dropping like flies? Whoever next? Jesus? Saliba? It's a good question, and I don't know the answer, unfortunately. We have obviously had a lot of games, but we've also had quite a decent break at the same time. So asking the question why we're getting these injuries is the answer that we need to find out so that we can try and mitigate these problems in the future. But it is really a difficult task to try and achieve. If you can't stop the tide of these problems, Arsenal will find themselves very short going through the rest of the season. That's why we've needed three players, really, at least two in every position of quality, with a third to provide some versatility and depth into those areas. We do have three players for each position. However, it does require some versatility on some part of some players. And when you lose a player like Zinchenko and White, you're not only losing an option at left back and right back and centre back, but potentially even in midfield as well. So that's the problem at the moment. YG says, is our training staff dodgy? No, they're not dodgy at all. Injuries happen to players. This has happened at Arsenal and other clubs significantly for a long period of time. This is always kind of where we revert back to type and start asking questions about the training methods and stuff, why are players getting injured. they would not be doing things that would increase the risk of injury. They don't want players to get injured. So it doesn't make sense that they would be doing things that are going to increase the chance of injury. Injuries happen. It is part of football. However, it is worth certainly Arteta being asked the question about why injuries suddenly are stepping up, why they're happening more often, and also why they're happening in training, because Zinchenko, Partey in particular have suffered these problems in training specifically. Patrick says it could be a major issue when games come thick and fast. Absolutely. Dan Hudson says, are you nervous about the Brentford game? No, I'm confident about the Brentford game. I'm confident about Arsenal games. You know, nervousness was something I had when Arsenal's team wasn't that great. Arsenal have built something quite special, and I'm very excited to see what we bring to the table on Sunday. I'm looking forward to seeing it. I mean, whatever team we play against Brentford is going to be a better team than the one that played against Brentford last season, when we were catastrophically hit by a stupid number of injuries and absences. No Aubameyang, no Lacazette, no Nketiah, no Thomas Partey. I think potentially even Gabriel was out of that game as well. So we were out of a number of players. I think Chambers started at right back. We hadn't signed Ødegaard yet. We hadn't signed Tomiyasu yet. We hadn't signed Ramsdale yet. So the team that we're taking to Brentford is majorly different to the team that lost 2-0 at Brentford last season. So I am not nervous about that game. I still remain confident. Paul says, is there anything planned for our late friend Vinny that you can share? Yes, Paul, I can definitely share some information with you as to one of the things that we're doing. The Discord server very, very kindly has raised enough money in order for us to buy a premium plaque that will go into the celebration corner outside the Emirates. So for anyone that tuned into the channel and, of course, knew or watched or just interacted with Vinny at any point, when you go to the Emirates Stadium, situated behind the Thierry Henry statue, in the future, not done yet, of course, but it'll take time for it to be made and introduced into the celebration corner. But yes, we have raised money to insert a plaque celebrating Vinny's life in the celebration corner. That's just one of a couple of things that are happening. And all the money, of course, that we raise beyond what the price of the plaque was is going towards Vinny's family fund to help create a bench for him to go in one of his favorite places in his local area. So lots of things are happening, and the more things that do happen I can talk about, I will tell you. I know that I broke to you the story about Vinny saying that he wanted to be immortalized as an emoji. Don't worry, that is happening. That will probably happen towards after my honeymoon, but an artist is on it. Don't you worry. We're all moving ahead with these plans, Paul. But thank you for asking, and I hope that gives you some insight into what some of the plans are for that. Nexus says, are you worried about Gabriel Jesus' goal so far? Seems like he doesn't get the service someone in his position would need to succeed. No, I'm not at all, actually. I think he gets lots of service. I think Ødegaard has produced plenty of excellent passes for him. I think Martinelli and Saka could do more, but I think actually, no, we are producing plenty of opportunities for him. You look at the season that he's had so far, and that's because of the back of the service that he has been given so far. So no, I'm not concerned about him in terms of the service that he gets. Francois says, hey Tom, when you want a second honeymoon, I'll happily host you in Virginia Beach. Virginia is for lovers. Thanks, Francois. Much appreciate that. Very kind of you. Yang says, good morning, mate. What's up with our bloody luck with injuries? I'm convinced someone has cursed our club with a football curse. Yeah, it's frustrating, isn't it? As I say, I can't really talk anymore about what I've already mentioned, but Mikel Arteta hopefully will be giving us something more. Yeah. Kolasinac started at centre-back. Did he? Did he really? Brentford, Arsenal, 2-0. What was the team that day when we played them? Our team was... Here we go. No, he didn't. Kolasinac didn't start, but he did... And he didn't come off the bench either. The team was Bert Leno, Chambers, Ben White, Pablo Marie, Kieran Tierney, Lokonga, Xhaka, Pepe, Smith Rowe, Martinelli, and Balogun. So Saka didn't even start the game. We had no Aubameyang, no Lacazette, no Nketiah. Partey wasn't there. We had no Tomiyasu or Cedric even, I don't think. I don't see Cedric. Is he even on the bench? He was on the bench, to be fair. No Gabriel. We had obviously no Zinchenko at this point either, but we potentially want to have Zinchenko probably, it seems, for this weekend. No Jesus, of course. No Erdegaard's. Yeah, we have a very, very different team now than we did then. So it looks more positive, and I'm a lot more, or rather, I'm not really nervous going into this game. Jason says, how long could Zinni be out for? The report suggests 2 weeks. So he could return for the North London derby. Keep your fingers very much crossed. So he could return for that. We'll have to wait and see, and we'll track his progress. Thankfully, there's only the Brentford game, and he's now not going to the Ukrainian team for the international break. So swings and roundabouts. And says, what time is Arteta's press conference today? It's a good question. It's usually around 12:30, 1 o'clock. I haven't had any indication to say that it isn't going to be around that time. It's between 12 and 1 usually, so it'll be around that time today. Johnny says, if you could sign one of our players down to a lifetime contract, who and why? Saliba, because I am confident that we will be able to sign Saka and Martinelli up to deals in the future. But Saliba, I'm less confident about like the rest of his career. So Saliba, I would sign to a full-time length of his career contract. Vanna Duty says, what are your thoughts on the England squad and Southgate? In my opinion, he's a poor coach and we lose every time there is a step up in quality of an opposing team. Not completely true, considering we beat Germany quite famously, in the Euros last season. I think that we have a manager that is limited. If it was down to me, I would bring someone in better than him. I think that he's taken England pretty much as far as he can. But I don't think that's fair to say that he's a poor coach, because he took England to a semi-final and a final of a European and of a World Cup and a European tournament. But I would have a different coach. I think that a different coach would be able to take this group of particular players further, would be able to get better football from these players as well. And I think would make better decisions with team selection. But often what I find is in these types of discussions, there's a spectrum. And if you don't like Southgate, immediately that makes you want to go to the end of the spectrum that says he's poor. He's factually not a poor coach. Otherwise, he wouldn't have got England as far as he is. But he's not, for me, good enough to take this England team in particular as far as I think as it could go. So I would take a better coach. And I can't see the progression in the same kind of way. John Wayne says, I honestly think we are cursed. Tell me one club with more riddled with the collective injuries in the past 15 years. Liverpool. You look at Leicester over the last couple of seasons as well. They have had awful injury problems. Connor says, if we manage to get top 4 this season, do you think we have the team to take us to the next step? And if no, who will be needed to swap and upgrade? I don't think we have the team to take us to a title yet. I think we need to make 2 or 3 starting additions to this team. And when I say starting, I mean players that will compete with existing starters. 2 of them, I think, are midfielders. I think the number 6, and I think Xhaka's role, we need to sign 2 players that can compete for both of those positions. And I think that potentially we need to add a wide forward that is also going to add. So if you add that wide forward competitor to the forward line who can play across the front 3, you add 2 central midfield options once El Neni moves on. And with Partey's inconsistency in terms of reliability of fitness, we need to bring in 2 players in midfield. So 2 midfielders and a wide forward. I think we've got a great group of players. Potentially a right back, but I think I want to see what Britnott and Cuffy does coming through. A centre back as well. But again, there's interest in this, what Auston Trusty can potentially do. He's doing very well on loan as well. Patrick said there's 571 of you watching. In fact, there's 638 of you now. Only 37 likes. Let's hit that like button, people. Takes you 1 second. Little click, and you've helped support the channel massively. So if you appreciate the hard work that goes into the channel, and you appreciate the fact that even though I'm going away tomorrow evening, you're still going to have an 8 a.m. show for you throughout the course of my holiday to watch and enjoy and entertain your mornings, do drop a like on the video. It really would be appreciated. Let's Talk Arsenal says, you know what will solve our injuries? Make players play 9 games in October. Surely that will fix it all. Yes. It makes so much sense, doesn't it? Just throw more players at these, for more games, at these players. It's ridiculous. Jermaine says, Graham Potter for England. Yeah, that would have probably been my number 1 pick, but now at Chelsea, I can't see that happening all too soon. T says, all this excuse for a below-average coach, it's time to let Arteta go. What? Arteta? What? We're top of the league, T. Below-average coach. You can only laugh, I think, at the people that are still peddling the Artetas and below average. Yeah, you can only laugh at this stage. I respect, to a degree, opinions of a varying nature, but When they're as trolly as this, you can only laugh at this stage. Lynn says, you had to be working hard at club level to pay for England. This is not the case now. How fair do you think it is? It's not fair, Lynn. Players like Luke Shaw, like Maguire, don't deserve to be in this team. They've not been playing. They have not been playing. Tyreek Mitchell, obviously Ben White, if he was fit enough, should have been included. I just find it baffling. Some of the decision-making processes behind Gareth Southgate's selection. It is far, far too favouritism. It is far, far too ridiculous. And considering the fact he came out in a previous interview and said that he wanted to pick players based off of form, I just can't get my head around it. Noel says, reports suggest Man United are looking to spend 70 million in January. That would mean they would spend up to 280 million in Ten Hag's first year, while we don't show ambition by not getting a winger and a wide forwards. I have to do this every single time that someone kind of questions the money that Arsenal is spending. Let me go back to 2018 once again. Arsenal spent £72 million in the market in 2019, 144 million in 2020, 77 million in 2021, 150 million, and in 2022, 118 million pounds. And this all comes with sales of I'm just doing a quick calculation. That's 50, that's 67, that's 113 and 121. So Arsenal spent close to, if not more than £500 million on transfers, making just over 100 million in sales. I don't know what to tell you, Noel. If that's not ambition, a net spend of nearly 400 million in 5 years, I don't know what to tell you, mate. I really don't know what to tell you, especially when you consider that we're having to make significant changes to the squad. For me, I'm not Cronky out anymore. I'm not saying I'm Cronky-ed. I'm kind of on Cronky watch, if you like. I'm kind of sitting here and observing and seeing if things improve. But it's a bit of an old record at this point when they've been doing what we've asked to do. They're more communicative. They're spending money. They're investing. I don't know what more I can really ask. I could ask them to spend more money, but I'm really liking the way that we're recruiting players and that we're improving the squad. I'm liking the way that we could absolutely do more. There's always more. I say you can never get a 10 out of 10 from me. You can always do more. But if the player isn't out there necessarily to bring in at that certain time, then the player's not out there. I think that we could have brought in a player in midfield on loan, potentially Dennis Zakaria. I think that a wide player, if they wanted to get the right player, they potentially would have done. But we're not going to go out and overspend for a player like Pedro Neto. He's not worth 60 million. He's not even worth 50 million at the moment. I'd be tempted to spend it, but he's not worth that amount of money as of yet. It's not a lack of ambition. It's showing measured approach in which we want to build this team. If we start doing what we were doing 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and overspending on players and making silly mistakes in the market, we go back to what we was, which was a team on the slide. So if you want that to happen, that's down to you, but not me. I want us to be sensible. I want us to be measured. I want us to move in the right direction. T says, Arsenal will never move forward because of a fan like you. What have Arteta done for Arsenal? You can't even say we'll finish in the top 4. I mean, we haven't yet, so I can't say that, but I certainly can say that he has improved absolutely so many things about where Arsenal have been that it's absolutely quite ridiculous that some cannot see what is being done. The improvement to recruitment, the improvement of the actual atmosphere in the stadium because fans can see the belief, the improvement of the squads, the improvement of an overall culture change within the team, improvements to players like Xhaka, like Saka, like Emile Smith-Rowe, like Tomiyasu and Ramsdale and Ødegaard. Players like Gabriel Martinelli have grown to another level. The identification that we needed to make sure we brought in a quality midfielder for the first time in a decade like Thomas Partey. We needed to add strength in depth like White coming in for the centre-back area, maintaining William Saliba in this squad, bringing in Oleksandr Zinchenko, renewing contracts of players that we thought we were going to leave and lose, like following Balogun. I just can't get my head around how some people cannot see anything positive about what has happened. I think it's probably based upon pride of opinion that people have been so incredibly strong on the Arteta outside of things that they can't quite get over the idea that they may have ever so slightly had a misjudgment in their own opinion and can't change it. I did. I wanted him out after Villarreal. I don't want him out now because I think that I was wrong to want him out, and I think that I should have been a bit more patient, and I certainly am seeing the benefit of changing my mind, and I am loving every single minute of Arsenal Football Club right now, because it is a place where I want to be, a place where I want to go back to games. It's a place that feels like Arsenal going in the right direction once again. Thank you for listening. I'll see you again not even next week, but tomorrow. Have a fantastic Friday. See you later. And as always, up the Arsenal and screw the haters.